Everyone, it's Tuesday, the 26th. The market kind of stalled out here a little bit at the declining 50-day moving average, the volume weighted average price from the summer low and summer high. This is the expected zone for some supply to be found. So far, we're stalling. It doesn't mean that we have reversed. We're still above the week to date volume weighted average price. We're above the rising 5-day moving average. My personal preference would for this market would be that we get a refresher in that maybe we do something like this and then come down towards that 5-day moving average, maybe even undercut it. So tomorrow's what, Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then perhaps we regroup on Friday. VWAP off this peak might come down. Well, let's do this. It might come down and look something like this, and then that 5-day moving average would look like this. It's just a scenario, but I would really like to see it pull back because we've gone, since the CPI report, we've gone over 10% here, and it needs some pause to refresh and to trap the chasers and teach them a lesson as usual. The Nasdaq is a little bit weaker here. This one, obviously, impacted by some earnings reports that were out in Facebook. I'm sorry, Google and um, what was the other one? Microsoft. Anyways, and those stocks, they failed in the perfect place, right at the prior, right at the declining 50-day moving average, the volume weighted average price off that peak, this prior support, and Google the same story. I mean, just use some common sense here. This is a prior support, 38.2% retracement, VWAP off of these peaks, and the declining 50-day moving average for Google. It really shouldn't have surprised anyone to the downside. It's in a longer term decline. And again, if they don't scare you out, they'll wear you out. If this market is capable of turning higher, it needs to refresh first, and that's what we're looking for. The Russell has shown a little bit of relative strength. It's also in this zone. It made it up to the top end of the zone in that it hit the volume weighted average price off of the March high. We'd been talking about that if it overtakes the declining 50-day moving average, that might be where it meets supply. I would not be surprised, and I would be happy if we saw this market pull back in a similar way to what I had outlined here in the SPY. If we were to do something similar to that in the Russell 2000, trap people on the open tomorrow, make them think that it's bullish, but instead make lower high and lower low, and even maybe a little shake below that 5-day moving average. Something like that would be better, for a long candidate in these markets. That is, if we start to see it rise again. We're not seeing that yet. So, semiconductors, where are they failing? I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. It's the prior band of support in here. It's this prior low. We've got the declining 20-day moving average, the VWAP off of this peak from the Fed, all right here. Now, this market was just a little bit lower here today. It gapped down and rallied up, but still, it ended lower than yesterday's close, and it also ended lower than the volume weighted average price. It ended below the 2-day volume weighted average price. So that tells us over the last 2 days into this strength, we're seeing some distribution. So the very short term trends are turning negative. We still have an intermediate term trend higher. So while we give the benefit of the doubt to the buyers, it doesn't mean we're going to be a buyer here. It means that if it rallies up towards this level tomorrow and fails, then it's likely to come down and test that 5-day moving average. If that 5-day moving average fails, then the last touch of the volume weighted average price from the low right here would be the next level. So kind of right in that same area as the 5-day moving average. So, let's look for some pullback in here. And, the best situation would be that it comes down, gets people excited to the short side, but holds those VWAPs, recovers into next week, and then maybe we get some earnings reports or something that's a catalyst in the semis, and then it could blast off to the upside and head for this level. I'm not calling for that. Trust me, it's in a downtrend, but that we always have to think of what would take most people by off guard. A lot of people probably shorting against this level and taking profits against that level. So if it's to pull back, hold that VWAP, and then get going, it might be able to sustain a run. But that's 2 to 3 moves ahead. We have to focus for tomorrow what's on right now, and it looks like a whole bunch of indecision. No reason to be involved, no advantage there. We're through that declining 200-day moving average once again. It is still declining. The 50-day moving average is still declining as well. So I would expect that, if let's say we run up through this high, trap some people, come down, create a higher low, kind of, add to this, maybe looking like a head and shoulders pattern as well. Um, XLE is getting a little bit extended. Raise your stops as we've been doing with CVX and WTI.